This awareness through movement lesson in the Feldenkrais method focuses on the quality of breathing. You will be lying on the floor, so it is best to have something padded to lie on, such as a carpeted floor or exercise mat. Remove your shoes and loosen your belt. If you are wearing glasses, put them in a safe place. You can support your head with a folded towel if it is more comfortable. Easy, normal-sized breaths will allow you to notice subtle changes that make the lesson more effective. If you feel fatigue or discomfort, regardless how much, pause and change your position on the floor or sit in a chair. Most importantly, allow yourself to take this time to enjoy the lesson. Okay, so you're lying on your back and notice your contact on the floor, especially when you breathe and where you feel that movement in your back on the floor. So where's your contact of your ribs, for example, or the contact of your small of your back, or the contact of your pelvis and the back of your neck and your head? So you can begin with scanning your body's contact with the floor this way from your center, and then work out to your cardinal lines, your arms and your legs. And you might notice a difference in your ribs and your rib basket between your left and your right side. And you might feel a difference in how your pelvis rests on the floor as you breathe. And then, as you inhale, push your lower abdomen out as you inhale. And notice what happens with your contact on the floor when you do that. Your lower abdomen is below your navel, between your navel and your pubic bone. And so you might want to rest your hands on your lower abdomen so that you can feel the movement there, so you know that you're expanding your lower abdomen as you do this and not just your upper abdomen. For many people, they don't move at all in their lower abdomen when they breathe. And of course, this is a restful breath. So as you inhale, normally your lower abdomen your abdomen would go out. And so just notice that. Take one hand and put it up on your sternum and one hand on your lower abdomen, and just notice what happens there. You could shift your hand to your upper abdomen too and just feel that. You don't need to take in special breaths or a large breath, just a type of a normal breath. And notice the timing of that. Is more movement, for example, in your upper abdomen? Or is it in your chest, or is it in your lower abdomen? Do your ribs lift before or after your lower abdomen? Or is it synchronized? Is it a simple movement? So now, as you inhale, push your lower abdomen out. Notice your contact with the floor when you do that. And then do this. Draw in your lower abdomen as you inhale. You draw in your abdomen as you inhale. Notice if it changes your contact on the floor, and notice if it changes the movement in your ribs. Notice any movement you feel in your head or your neck or your upper thoracic vertebra. And you don't have to take a large breath, just a normal breath. Less in this case would be more. And then let that go and just breathe normally. And then now come back to noticing your breath with your hand on your sternum and your lower abdomen. And this time, as you breathe, when you exhale, draw in your lower abdomen. And notice what happens in your pelvis when you do that. What happens in your contact with the floor. And bend your knees so the soles of your feet are on the floor. Here, let me. And then continue doing that, because you may find your pelvis is more free in this position. So with your knees bent, draw in your lower abdomen as you exhale. And you have your one hand on your lower abdomen below your navel and one hand on your sternum. And then lengthen your legs and continue doing the same thing, and notice what you feel. Notice your contact with the floor when your legs are long. Notice how it may change the way your sternum moves, or how your pelvis is tilted. Your pelvis might be tilted more forward now, and the small of your back farther away from the floor. And now, as you exhale, push your lower abdomen out. Push your lower abdomen out. And notice your contact with the floor when you do that. And notice how this affects your rib basket, your ribs. And then let that go and rest. So you may notice that when you're doing that last movement, for example, that your contact with the floor changed. And so we're going to come back and explore this again. And so now bring your hands to your upper and your chest and your lower abdomen, on your sternum and your lower abdomen. And this time, as you inhale, expand your chest. And notice if your contact with the floor changed, whether your small of your back went away from the floor. And so you're expanding your ribs, your thoracic area, as you inhale. And as you do that, notice if you become farther away from the floor in the small of your back. And in a fully healthy inhalation, in the movement of the ribs, it would not affect your contact with the floor, other than you would have more contact with the floor. So if the small of your back is going away from the floor, it's an indication that you are actually extending instead of expanding. An extension means to look up, as if you were standing, so that the small of your back would come away from the floor. Likewise, if you were to inhale and expand your lower abdomen, your contact with the floor would not change, because the movement is not just forward. And for many players who breathe, and many people who breathe, when they inhale, they arch their back. And that's not inhaling, because basically the back, the spine, is moving in parallel with the sternum. So there's no expansion. But in an inhalation, a full inhalation, it's in both directions. So now, as you inhale, draw your lower abdomen in, and as you exhale, push your lower abdomen out. And notice if you're really pushing your lower abdomen out, or if you're pushing your the upper part of your abdominal area out. Are you pushing the lower part? So put both of your hands on the lower part of below your navel, just above your pubic bone, and see if you feel that movement going out. And notice if you can do this without arching your back. So as you inhale, you draw your lower abdomen in, and as you exhale, you push your lower abdomen out. And when you do that, be aware that your contact with the floor is the same, so you don't adjust it. And if you want, you can bend your knees and do this with your knees bent to see if it changes it. For some people, that will be much easier to bend your knees and do this with your knees bent. But ultimately, it really shouldn't make much difference. But if we have tension around our hips and that, then it will make a difference. So for most people, it will be easier with your knees bent. So you feel the expansion down, not just forward. So you're expanding your lower abdominal area, but not just forward, down toward your feet. All the directions in Feldenkrais method are always in relation to your body, not the room. And let that go and rest. Of course, when you do a movement like this, it can relax you so much you'll fall asleep. And so now, put your hand on your sternum and your hand on your lower abdominal area. And as you inhale, push your lower abdomen out, and as you exhale, draw your lower abdomen in. And then continue it with your knees bent. So you expand your lower abdominal area when you inhale, and it contracts when you exhale. And then let that go and rest. And then bring your attention back to your breathing and feel your breath. Just notice your breath. Notice the timing of your breath now. And then bend your knees. And this time, as you inhale, you expand your ribs, and as you exhale, you let them get smaller, your rib cage. And you can check that with your hands if you want. Notice your contact with the floor so that your contact stays quiet. And then do the opposite so that when you inhale, you make your chest smaller. And when you exhale, you make it larger. Notice what happens in your abdominal area when you do that. It will expand and contract in the opposite way. And now let that go, and with your knees bent, as you inhale, tilt your pelvis back so the small of your back gets closer to the floor as you inhale. And then you let it go when you exhale. And now, when you exhale, tilt your pelvis forward. Oh, that's...
I thought I shut it off.
And then let that go and rest. Extend your legs and rest. Noticing your contact with the floor, of course. And then bend your knees and interlace your fingers and put them behind your head. So you may not need your little head rest. And now, with your bringing your elbows forward, as you inhale, you will lift your head and tilt your pelvis back at the same time. So you get shorter in the front. You lift your head and your elbows are forward, not to the side. And then when you bring your head down, you can bring your elbows to the side if you want. Then you lift your head as you tilt your pelvis back so the small of your back gets closer to the floor. Do that a couple more times, and then when you're done with that, rest. Or if you're tired, and then rest. Extend your legs and rest. Rest, rest, rest. And then bend your knees and let your arms be by your side. And this time as you inhale, tilt your pelvis forward. And then when you exhale, you come back. And then add to that movement. As you exhale, tilt your pelvis back as you exhale. So you tilt your pelvis forward as you inhale, and you tilt your pelvis back as you exhale. And notice your contact with the floor, with your back. And then rest for a moment with your knees bent. And then bend your knees again and interlace your fingers and put them behind your head and lift your head with your elbows forward and continue doing the same movement. So as you inhale, you tilt your pelvis forward. As you exhale, you tilt it back. So you leave your head lifted, looking down toward your feet as you tilt your pelvis back and forth, leaving your head lifted. And notice what you feel in your upper ribs. And then let that go and rest. Leave your legs long. Let your legs be long, I mean. And then bend your knees. And this time, as you exhale, tilt your pelvis forward. And as you inhale, tilt your pelvis back. Exhale, tilt forward. Inhale, tilt back. Not powerfully, but... And notice what happens in your ribs, in your sternum. And then continue doing that, only interlace your fingers behind your head and lift your head. Not powerfully, not an exaggerated breath. And then let that go, extend your legs, and let your arms rest by your side. Feel your contact with the floor. And then bend your knees again, and this time put your hands on your lower abdomen and on your sternum. And feel the movement in your breath. And as you inhale this time, push. The movement goes down as you inhale and up, drawing in your lower abdomen, going up into your ribs, your sternum, and your back, your shoulders as you exhale. So you expand all the way around in your lower abdomen, all the way around the back of your pelvis and the sacrum, the lower back. And then you draw in your lower abdomen and you expand in your ribs. And then reverse that movement so that you draw in your lower abdomen as you inhale. And you push down as you exhale. And feel your contact. See if you can keep your contact with the floor. Separate your inhalation and your exhalation from this movement so that you inhale as you're expanding and contracting in your lower abdomen. So you're doing this seesaw movement as you continue to inhale and exhale at a different pace. So don't do it powerfully or it may be confusing. As you inhale and exhale, separate the inhalation and the exhalation from this seesaw movement that you're doing between your lower abdomen and your upper abdomen. So you draw in your lower abdomen, then you push out your lower abdomen. Of course, when you push out your lower abdomen and you push down, your chest gets smaller. And then as you draw in, your chest gets larger. And you do that seesaw movement within your torso independent of your breath. So you might do 2 or 3 of those movements for an inhalation, or 2 or 3 of those movements for an exhalation. Or not even 2 or 3, just independent. 1.5 or 1.857, if you're so inclined. I can see you're trying to figure out 1.857. It's like, let's see if I can get a little slower. And we know when our movement is easy, all movement is easy when it separates from the breath. And then let that go, extend your legs, and feel your contact with the floor. Might have changed. And where does your breath go on the floor? Where do you feel the expansion is? And then let that go and roll to your side and come to sitting. And bring yourself to standing. And then when you come to your feet, but take your time, no hurry. Now feel your feet on the floor and feel where your balance is. So lean forward a little bit, lean back a little bit. And walk around the room and notice what your contact is and your balance. And that will conclude this lesson. You can find more lessons at Feldenkrais Method for Musicians on Facebook and at steveduke.net.